You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Will Retherford is here to answer the 5 questions that need to be answered. Joining him today is Michelle Garman of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader for a little bit of debate. Although I do want to say off the top, we're not going to talk about the college football playoffs because we're going to do that in a separate podcast coming up. But we're about to answer the other 5 questions. By the way, this is from a Central Indiana perspective. So we talk about the top sports headlines in college and professional sports. And Will answers the questions that I pose to him. Welcome, guys.
Yep, thank you. I'm ready.
And we start, as we do every week during the NFL season, and I think we have a change at the top in with our who is the most likely team to win the Super Bowl. And before we get started, I just want to say I told you that the Lions will not win the Super Bowl. Go ahead.
It is after it's been a great 6-7 weeks. I have loved the roller coaster we've been on with this. Okay. I'm going to have to remove my humble kings, the Lions, from the top this week. I'm going to go number 1, and I will give my reasons why. Some may not think it makes sense. I'm going to say the Buffalo Bills are 1. And I'm going to give reasons a little deeper than just Josh Allen is an absolute freak show, because he is.
This gives me a chance to remind everybody that this is the most likely to win the Super Bowl, yes, not the power ranking.
Yes. I say this. I think that the Chiefs, I think that this Mahomes ankle injury is going to linger. I think it is going to be a problem. I think they're going to have to start Carson Wentz down the stretch in games that they really need to win, because this lead on Buffalo, it is 2 games at this point, but right now Buffalo's rolling, and the Chiefs have, they're figuring out ways to win these one-score games. I really think there's a chance Buffalo sneaks into that 1 seed with the Chiefs going down, and I think high mark in January, February, I'm going to give the advantage to the Bills. When the Bills play in these cold weather games at home, they perform. Their defense, they have issues. I'm not going to say – I don't think there's a perfect team right now where there's just a team that I'm saying is great all 3 phases. The Bills are good special teams. I'm going to give the benefit to the quarterback, because I think their quarterback, as he's just put the team on his shoulders. He is should be unanimous MVP.
I think that's true now.
I think their defense is good enough. And I just think that this AFC, I think it's the Chiefs and the Bills are the only 2 teams that I really think have any chance of going to the Super Bowl. And I just think that when push comes to shove, the Bills are going to get it done this year.
I told you at the beginning, I thought the Bills were going to be addition by subtraction. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of older guys who were starting to go down in their careers with big contracts. They replaced those with guys who we didn't know much about, but because they're younger, they're more athletic. So that's what I thought the Bills might do.
The concern for me with the Bills, I agree. I think they're really good and Josh Allen is the MVP this year. There's no doubt. Is because of their issues in the secondary. And I say that because if Mahomes' ankle does not turn out to if they can rest him a game here and he doesn't have to sit out. The concern is because their receivers are getting healthier, and he's developing a pattern, timing with them. That's what I want to say. He's developing timing, and they don't have Brown back, and he's going to come back. So that could be a concern with the Bills if their secondary is not healthy. Now, vice versa, the same way with the Chiefs. But where the Chiefs, I think, would have the edge in that situation is they've been there, they've done that, and they know how to win games they need to under pressure. And it doesn't seem to faze them whether they're the underdog or they're the favorite, especially if the game would be in Kansas City. Now, I do think, all things considered, even if Mahomes is healthy, I think for Kansas City, though they can play in the cold weather because Kansas City is not warm.
No, it's not warm.
So I do think it would give the edge to the Bills, and I agree with you. I think the Bills and the Chiefs and the Bills, and I'm only keeping the Chiefs number 1 right now until we find out exactly with Mahomes' injury. Only because they're the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions. Yeah. But I would say 1A. How about 1A and 1B? 1A, the Chiefs are 1A, and the Bills are 1B.
I think that we're probably flip-flop. One thing I will say that I do think plays in January and February, the running game advantage is the Bills. They have the better run game. They have the better running back. And Mahomes accounts for, you have to put 11 helmets. He is a legit runner. I think he's the best runner in the league with the ball. Smart. As far as what he can do, he's not taking huge hits. He's getting down. He's staying clean.
He sees the open field.
He sees the open field. If it's man coverage and you've got linebackers going back and you've got corners following receivers, like, he's going. And I'm just going to give the running advantage to him. I think Buffalo, if it's a snow game, Buffalo's winning. I don't think there's a team, because I just don't think there's a team, one, that is used to playing that way, and two, has the running game to go with it. Right now, the Chiefs, Kareem Hunt did an admirable job. Pacheco's kind of limping back into shape. I don't know.
But don't forget, though, the added thing, because as their receivers get away, and they're starting to find ways and get him the ball because he's really good, Xavier Worthy.
Well,
I mean, he's really good in space, and the Chiefs, if they find ways to hand off and do things and get him the ball in space, he may get the ball to your best athletes. He may be a huge difference maker.
We've seen what the cold does to speed. Last year, Miami and was a point blank of what does to the three fastest collection of players ever with Waddle.
You guys are using all this logic when the bottom line is this: the Chiefs are going to. Patrick Mahomes' ankles are going to linger. He's going to limp all the way into the Super Bowl championship, and we all know it's going to happen.
Well, except
they're going to find a way to do it because they do.
Yes, except for the last time he had that lingering ankle injuries when they lost the Super Bowl to the Buccaneers.
Well, they're at least going to get.
Well, that was also that was the year that what's his face? I can't think of the Jaguars receiver that fumbled on like the 2-yard line, basically. I mean, Jacksonville was in prime position to actually go into Kansas City and win that game, and just an errant fumble, the 3-yard line.
I will say one thing: people that are sitting there and saying, "Well, Travis Kelce, he's not doing a lot this year." I really believe Andy Reid is limiting his minutes because Travis Kelce was banged up last year.
Or it could just be that he's not getting good anymore. We don't know yet.
Right, but I think no, because I've still seen him make those catches.
We'll see.
I think he was banged up in the shoulder, and I say this because I was watching him down the stretch. He got healthy by the playoffs because there were a couple of games where the ball was high, and their catches that Travis always makes with two hands, he could not get one arm up high enough to make those catches. By the time the playoffs rolled around, he could.
I think the jury's going to be out come the playoff time. I think you're going to see, okay, is Travis Kelce actually, is he still...
We're going to know in the playoffs.
We're going to know if everything that they've done as far as limiting his touches has been intentional, or he really is just, father time starting to catch up a little bit.
And by the way, when you get old, you still make plays. You just make fewer of them.
Yeah.
So he's made some plays.
What I'm just saying is because
I
say they're managing because he comes out almost he's out
you
every
want
other.
To believe this, and
he's out every.
We
other
have
play.
no proof at all that he's any good anymore.
Here's what I'm saying, he is because the Chiefs aren't going to spend the money they spent on him in the offseason if he's not. Andy Reid.
I think he's
knows his personnel.
I think they're using him a little differently than they've used him.
I think he's just not as good as he was. He's
taken
a lot of hits. He's made a lot of great plays. I just don't think we're going to see him. You need to start going to Xavier Worthy to make up for it.
Week 1, week 2 of the playoffs, you're going to find it. You're going to figure out, hey, it's
they're two different guys. I mean, I think Kelce will still make.
I don't think he can be your reliable number one receiver anymore.
Here's what I'm going to tell you: I would not be shocked at all if week 2, if say they get the 1 seed and their first game coming in. I wouldn't be shocked to see 10 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown at all.
Oh, I wouldn't either.
I would at this point. I think he's. I think he's an every once in a while guy now.
I don't.
We'll see.
I think because of all the hit, I think Andy Reid is just so smart.
He is. That's a fact. And they will figure out a way to win the Super Bowl. I just think they'll figure out a way to win the Super Bowl.
And I'll tell you, Travis Kelce isn't as bad as what he might do a little less, but I don't think he's downgraded as much as you think he has.
You could be right, but I think I'm right, and we're going to find out pretty soon.
We are, but
if he doesn't have big games in the playoffs,
I'm going to guess I would probably watch a little bit more professional football than you do. Because I watch the Chiefs. I don't watch the Colts. I watch the Chiefs and the Packers.
I'm just gonna say two is the Chiefs. It's the Chiefs. We just gave 10 minutes.
I still put the Chiefs number one. Chiefs.
By the way, I think we're all. I think
if it was a power poll, I'd have the Bills number one.
You two are Chiefs and Bills. I'm Bills and Chiefs.
Well,
I just think this is the year
it's 1A and 1B.
I think this is the year. I just think Josh Allen is just playing like he's tired of not going to the Super Bowl.
I think we look back at it like Terry Bradshaw and Ken Anderson in the end, and it was Patrick Mahomes winning all the championships and Josh Allen being the better player who didn't win any of the championships.
The world deserves to watch Josh Allen in the Super Bowl. If there is a player that
Ken Anderson deserves to be in the Super Bowl too, didn't he?
That the village in Nigeria is watching. The city in Nigeria that watches one game, Tokyo, these places that watch one game a year,
they
deserve to watch.
It just doesn't happen like that all the time. Dan Marino was never in one.
Yes, he was his rookie year. Dan Marino led the Miami Dolphins to the Super Bowl his rookie season. It was his only one.
Amazing girlfriend, Addie. Shout out, Addie. We were just having this debate last week coming home, and I said if I had to send a physical specimen to outer space,
but just because you have
for
the best
aliens to look at, I would send
Josh
Allen.
Hey, Greg, a guy who I think that deserved to have gone to Super Bowl and never did, Warren Moon.
Oh yeah,
people don't forget about Warren Moon. I mean, he deserved it.
He was let down by his teams.
That's all I'm going to say. If there is a physical specimen right now in the NFL that I'm saying I'm sending to the aliens to show,
no
it's
doubt
Josh
about
Allen.
it. Maybe of all time.
So
maybe of all time as quarterback.
He's and I get that, and I do think they're the only two teams. If you had to pick a team that maybe would get hot, that you think that could get hot, that maybe could upset a dark horse, especially if, say, because we all know this, Josh Allen gets hurt and Mahomes can't play. I've
got a couple honorable mentions I think we'll get to that will hit on that topic specifically later. But for now, I'm going to go.
And I'm talking about AFC.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to go my three here, and this could come as a surprise. We just talked about Green Bay Packers. I think they are really good, and I do not think.
Do you think they're the most likely NFC?
Yeah, because I don't think Detroit wants to play them. I don't think Minnesota wants to play. I don't think anybody wants to play this team right now because they're the three horsemen outside of the Eagles are the NFC North.
Yes.
I don't think that the Lions are not going to feel good playing the Packers one more time.
Well, they got 20 players on the IR, and no, they won't feel good
playing them. The Vikings aren't going to want to play. Darnold, as great as Darnold is, boy, he can give the ball up some. And, I mean...
he's not been in that situation either once you get to that part.
The Packers have ball hawks. You don't think Xavier McKinney and Jair Alexander aren't going to be hunting for the ball against a Vikings matchup? Jair was one of the few corners that can...
And how about the two... Cooper, number 56 the other night, and then they've got another guy on the end now.
He's a good one. I mentioned him in our preview.
They've got another guy who's gotten a lot more play now that since they made the trade with the Lions to send Smith off, who didn't fit the 3-4 system.
No, he didn't.
I picked him to be the defensive rookie of the year, by the way.
Well, I'm telling you what, he's come up... Green Bay's defense impressed me so much against Seattle. I mean, Geno Smith was never comfortable.
No. And what I'll say, too, you don't want to play Jordan Love. That guy, he can sling the pill around the yard with anybody. He's the perfect gunslinger that will just infuriate a team because he is going to put the ball in harm's way a lot. But it's going to find a Green Bay Packers receiver's hands a lot more than it's going to find a defender's hand.
Mike LaFleur said that he's finally healthy enough. He's actually practicing during every practice now. He's not having to sit out.
So you're a homer, but you think they're the best team in the NFC too? Or the most likely to be in the Super Bowl?
I just think they're getting hot at the right time.
I think they're getting hot at the right time. I will say this. I think you have to because the Eagles have put all the phases together and they've been there, and I think they're probably going to end up with home field.
I agree.
So I think the Eagles have to be first.
The Eagles don't want to play the Packers. They already played them.
I know, but I think you have to put the Eagles first.
I agree.
And then I think you do have the Packers.
But this is why I like it being most likely to win the Super Bowl and not a power poll, because our answers are different.
I think the most likely to win the Super Bowl right now in the NFC, I think it's the Packers, because the Eagles. I think it's the Eagles. The Eagles are a combustion ball right now. They are a ticking time bomb waiting to just explode.
Right about that. You could be right.
They're figuring out they're winning. It doesn't look good.
But the thing
they're fighting everywhere. Right. It's just at some point.
Except they looked good this last week.
They did look good.
And their defensive backs get better every single week.
Their defense is only giving up 15.
And they lead the league better every week.
But here's the thing. I will say this. Green Bay is the one team that can go into Philadelphia and win, because cold weather doesn't bother them.
No, that doesn't bother them at all. And not to mention the fact that, Green Bay is... Jordan. You think Jordan Love's going to be rattled in Philadelphia?
And Jacobs is a much better running back right now in that system than what he was in Week 1.
Jordan Love is in a different sense. And this is what makes him so dangerous. He might throw a pick, and he's going to go down there the next possession and say, "Hell with it, I'm going to do it again." And he doesn't care. And that gunslinger mentality is what makes players like him so dangerous. And it's a way he's different than Rodgers, because Rodgers at times he wouldn't put the ball in harm's way, and that's why the Packers never reached what they wanted, because Rodgers, for everything Rodgers is, brilliant thrower of the football, he was scared sometimes to put the ball in harm's way in a way that Jordan Love is not, and will never be.
Do you agree that the Eagles are number 4 then?
Yes, the Eagles are my number 4 team.
Okay, and that's fine, because I don't want to be homerish there with the Packers, but I agree. I do think that the Eagles and the Packers are definitely the favorites in the NFC right now.
And it was a great game the first time too.
But I thought that even if the Green Bay had to go play Detroit again, because I didn't think Detroit could beat Green Bay, even healthy I thought it would be hard to beat Green Bay 3 times.
I don't want to go on a tangent, but I think that myth is weird. If you beat a team 2 times, you're way better than they are. So
I disagree.
You're probably going to be
not when you're
time.
beating them close.
That's a different story.
When you're beating them by a field goal at the end of the game,
story. That's not
they're
what's
beating
happened
them close.
That is what's happened.
That is
what's happened.
Yeah.
The second game came down to the field goal at the end of the game.
They're close. The Packers are getting better. They're 4.
And the injuries to the Lions definitely opens the door.
They're my 3 simply just because I think that they are the most dangerous team, and I think they're the team. And my 5 is going to probably shock both of you, but I feel strongly about them. So
real quick here, the Packers too. While the Lions are getting more injured, the Packers are getting healthy.
Yeah, they are,
and their receivers. And you saw the other night when Dobbs and
Reed
and Watson and Reed and Wicks are all healthy, and then you throw in
Tucker
Kraft, you throw in Jacobs out of the backfield, and even little Wilson, who comes in to sub in for Jacobs. I mean, they've got Jordan Love has got anybody, and he trusts every single one of them to throw the ball to.
He does. I mean, it's what you love about Jordan Love. He doesn't. He trusts everyone. He's going to put the ball in harm's way to everyone. It does not matter. He's throwing the rock.
I've said this. I think that Jordan Love is. He reminds me a lot of Brett Favre.
Oh, he's the love child of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
I've said it for 2 years.
He is, and and it is great because both of them, because even that Favre is he thinks
he's a gunslinger.
Love, yeah, he thinks Love is great. Yeah.
All right, so far Will has Bills 1, Chiefs 2, Packers 3, Eagles 4. Michelle, Chiefs 1, Bills 2.
1A and 1B.
Eagles 3, Packers 4, or 3A and 3B?
Probably 3A and 3B, really, actually, at that point. But I'm not going to move the Eagles down yet because especially after they appeared to have put things together.
Winning teams don't act the way they act and get away with it. I don't know. That's my only caveat to them not being 3 ahead of the Packers is I just think that at some point.
Yeah, you could be right about that.
And I just think that they're a ticking time bomb.
That's what I think. It just could not be this year. That's the thing.
It may not be, and if it's not, then they got lucky. I just think it's going to happen at some point.
So Greg's number 1 is the Chiefs. Number 2 is the Bills. Number 3 is the Eagles. Number 4 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That is my number 5, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they fit the mold that the Packers do, where nobody wants to play them. They run the ball.
Only reason I don't have them ahead of the Eagles is because they're probably going to have to go through Philadelphia.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you
that on record, but the Bucks are going to host a home game. I mean, I think they're going to end up winning that division. The Buccaneers, they have a gunslinger quarterback and a quarterback with just a boatload of moxie. I mean, Baker Mayfield, say what you want about him. The guy has just got bravado. When you watch him play, I just love it. It's infectious.
I love it.
See, my number 5 is the Los Angeles Rams.
See, and I think
because I trust Sean McVay over I trust Todd Bowles, and perfect. I do. McVay has been there. He knows they're hot at the same time. They've got a quarterback who's led them there. Cooper Kupp keeps getting healthier and closer to 100%, and they've got weapons, and and they're finding a running game, and that's why the Rams, to me, are number 5.
My number 5, by the way, is the Baltimore Ravens, just because Lamar Jackson's there. But I think we're looking at those 4. Or the Packers. I think the Packers could. I just still have my doubts about it.
I think Michelle and I, Rams and Bucks, I think we just have different teams. We have them for the same reason, though. Bucky Irving is so good. He is just the steal, maybe the steal of the draft. He is so good. He's on my fantasy team. I love it. I love what he's done. Rachaad White is also a very capable back. So they've got the 1-2 punch. Baker, moxie, bravado, gunslinger, will do anything to win a game.
Receivers that make plays.
Mike Evans is incredible. Jalen McMillan finally looks like who I thought he was going to look like. Also on my fantasy team. Could end up being another steal of the draft.
And a defense that's not great.
They stop the run, though. Stop the run.
And they've got some guys who make plays, too.
I just think that they've got – I think the Bucks have that 1-2 of receivers that you kind of need, I feel like, in the modern NFL. K. Dotton is a more than serviceable tight end. I don't think he's great. I don't know. He's not a top – I don't think he's a top 10. He's a top half tight end probably in the league. They've got a great running game. They have a good D-line.
But don't you think Matt Stafford? I think Matt Stafford's playing better than Baker Mayfield right now.
I don't know. I think Baker Mayfield's quietly been really, really good the last 2 years. I wouldn't
say really, really, but he's been
He's had some games though where he's had
some old Baker games.
There's that you live by the sword, die by the sword. That's Baker Mayfield football. But you're talking about 3,600 yards, 32 touchdowns. He does have 14 picks. He fumbles some. That's what kind of going to drop the QBR a little bit. But he's the perfect quarterback for this team, and I think that he is their leader. They follow behind Baker Mayfield. I just think that
they've been competitive with everyone.
They've been competitive.
Even in their losses.
And you are right. They are going to win the South.
They're going to win the South. They're going to host a home playoff game. So.
And they're better than most of the teams in the NFC playoffs.
Now, the same thing is the Rams are probably going to win the West now, and they get to host.
Well, the jury's still out on that. The Seahawks and Rams still are both.
But they think Geno Smith is out for a while, and I don't think. I think he. Don't get me wrong, because I know the guy they got, Sam Howard, has come from the Commanders and everything. I just think that team has been built for Geno, and he has a good rapport. And if he's, because it's a knee, and if he is out for a while, I think that puts the Rams.
We'll see
in the driver's seat.
We've seen quarterbacks. I think what Lawrence last year playing on the knee issue kind of derailed their season. I feel like that's kind of a recipe, a follow of, hey, we probably shouldn't rush Geno back. We probably shouldn't. I don't think that's not aged well, especially last year. That really changed the whole AFC picture last year. So I think you're looking at Sam Howell probably for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And so maybe. But, is also was a capable starter in Washington. They did trade picks to get him. So I feel like there is some trust. They've got a good 1-2 punch running back. They got 3 good receivers. Noah Fant's a bottom 15 tight end, but they can get away. The defense, I don't know. I feel like that's a team that they can still make the playoffs if Geno can get healthy.
Yeah, I like them. They have not been the team I expected them to be, but if you were going to tell me who's a team that could come from out of nowhere,
I would say the Seahawks.
Yeah, that would probably be the one that I would say. They just got so many good players at so many key positions. And,
yeah.
Geno Smith isn't even one of their best, and he's been more than competent.
Yep. My honorable mentions, I've done this the past few weeks. 6, I'm going to say close. Baltimore for the same reason Lamar is.
If he figures it out in the playoffs.
If Lamar was any other year other than Josh Allen right now, Lamar is the MVP. My 7 is the Vikings, just because I think that they have a chance to be the 1 seed. And Kevin O'Connell is just brilliant.
I didn't think about that. I'd probably now, mentioning that, I might even put them ahead of Baltimore now that you mentioned that they could be the number 1 seed. I didn't even think about that. They could. Yeah.
Justin Jefferson is an absolute game wrecker. He can win you.
I'm going to move them to number 5. You've convinced me.
He can win you a playoff game. Like Jefferson by himself, just because he's Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison is a brilliant receiver. Aaron Jones, more than capable. TJ Hawkinson. Great. Boy, I am really convincing myself that maybe this team should be higher up. Brian Flores just wreaks havoc defensively. Now, I will say the Bears are terrible, but I mean they still came and they beat a bad team like you're supposed to beat a bad team in the NFL.
Will should the following be retained with the Colts? Chris Ballard, Shane Steichan, Anthony Richardson.
Chris Ballard should be fired. Chris Ballard has been given more than a long enough leash to prove that he is a capable GM. I think there are things that Chris Ballard does that are good.
He has done some good things.
I think there's a lot that Chris Ballard does that is bad. I think Chris Ballard has swung and missed on pretty much every first-round pick outside of, I mean, they did trade the first-round pick for Buckner. That was a win. DeForest Buckner has been a great Colt.
Sure.
I still feel like jury's probably still out a little bit on Richardson and Latu, I'm going to say. I don't know if I'm going to evaluate yet this year.
For sure.
Quentin
Nelson's been great.
You know what? Latu, this is the only reason Latu, when they drafted him, and this is why Ballard should be fired. Because he laughed and he says, we just got the effing best pass rusher in the draft. No, you did not. At least not for his rookie year. He thought he was an impactful player. I think Ballard, he needs to go.
Not good
I think
signs.
the only reason he's lasted as long as he has is because of Jim Irsay's health issues. I think he's been able to snow him, and I think Jim Irsay's had to be away from enough. But I'm guessing that Irsay's daughter is becoming more and more comfortable running the team, and once she is really comfortable, I think. And I say that because I don't think Ballard's a great GM, but I do think he knows a lot of the. He's probably pretty good at the administrative type things that you have with the GM, and when you're, and has been able to take on some of that stuff. Yeah, but he has had long enough.
He's had long enough, and you know what? The only thing I will say, as Colts fans, that I feel like we should look back and view what's happened and transpired a little differently, is I really think that Ballard was dealt a really rough deck with luck.
True.
I really think
and
that
Darius Leonard getting hurt was a really bad one.
I think that a lot of Ballard's playing cards early were focused around Andrew Luck. That team was built for Andrew Luck, and unfortunately, I don't fault the man at all. I feel like I read the story, enough time it had transpired. I went and there was a feature of him from ESPN last year that I read, and I feel like it really opened my eyes. It was time. Where he was mentally, like it was time for him to be done. It's a crying shame because I think he We lost a great.
But now he's had enough time since then, and
he has
not gotten.
He has
It's not gotten good enough.
And it hasn't been good enough.
And once he lost luck, though, but he didn't really do the right things.
No, he
didn't.
didn't.
He's chased so many pieces instead of sitting down and saying, okay, because, and now it's like almost now with Richardson, it's like, okay, it's gonna take a time. We're gonna build. No, the time to say that was after that happened with Andrew Luck, is to start rebuilding and saying, instead of chasing all these older quarterbacks, and saying, look, guys, be patient. It's gonna take us 2 years to replace him. We're gonna put pieces in, and when we find the right guy, and it's not gonna be some aging 1 or 2 year fix, then we're gonna do it. And
those are the biggest mistakes.
But the problem is, he didn't do that, and now where the Colts have been pushed even farther behind.
I don't think you can downplay how big of a deal losing Darius Leonard, who is in the middle of a Hall of Fame career, making plays at an incredible level, and then he's just gone. The defense has never been the same.
No, it hasn't. I just think that this Chris Ballard tenure it's time to be done. Now, I'm going to answer the Steichan, and I feel like Steichan follows Richardson a little bit. I don't think they should fire Shane Steichan. And I say that because I think this year Steichan has been dealt coaching-wise a tough deck from the standpoint of the entire offensive line the last 4 weeks has just been patchwork. Well, it is an excuse when the GM is building your.
Well, he committed head coaching malpractice with the Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, but I don't think he did either. And here's the other thing but you have to understand something. And I'm not sure it's 100% him. I think what he just did, I think he had got a directive. This is another reason I think Ballard needs to go, because I think Ballard didn't. I think he stuck his nose in. I think he stuck his nose in the coaching areas, times when he couldn't. And I'll tell you, I'm going to take it back. I think a great general manager who built the Packers because they weren't much, and then when he brought in, traded for Favre and got Reggie White free agent, Ron Wolf. Ron Wolf built teams, hired the coaches, and he let the coaches coach.
Yep.
And he ran a team. I think great general managers run Kansas City Chiefs. Look what they've done. Their general manager, I don't even really know his name. And why don't I really know his name? Because he stays out of he just does his job. Mm-hmm. And so I think that you need to give Steichan one more year, a Chris Ballard free year.
I wouldn't be against that.
And a general manager that's going to come in and sit down and ask his coach what. Because I'm not sure Ballard really asked. I think Ballard has got an ego that wants to prove that he's the man. And there's something I know about Ballard, but I'm not going to say it on here because it's a secondhand thing, and I'm just not going to say it on the podcast. But I'll tell you, the man is an arrogant.
Yeah,
he's an arrogant a-hole, and
Yep.
So
I don't care as long as he wins, but he
doesn't, and he thinks he knows it.
By the way, we got 10 minutes left for the last 4 questions.
Okay. So, that's what I say.
So I'm just gonna say that I just think that I think Steichan has shown flashes of brilliance in the standpoint that I don't think the grass is always greener, and I don't think that the Colts going and hiring a new coach is the right move. I think Anthony Richardson, I would love to give him.
But wouldn't you want, if you're getting rid of the GM, wouldn't you want him to pick his coach?
No, because then you're throwing in the towel on Richardson, and I'm not ready to do that. No, you are, because he's not going to be your regime. You're not going to tie your foot to him.
Well, here's the thing. It all depends. If you get a general manager that can sit there and give you reasons, I mean, coach, because there may be general GMs out there that see that and would like to talk to Steichan. I think if he sits down and he talks to Steichan, and if he realizes there's something that it's just not going to work, especially if it's a GM that has dealt and has come from something and had success, then you would have to give that to him. I think a really good GM, he'll know when he meets with Steichan, he will know whether he should be retained or not.
Steichan's just shown too much play calling brilliance in his time. He's made mistakes too.
It was bad this year until late in the season. Will, you feeling any better about the Pacers?
Yeah, I think they're playing better. I think they're starting to gel a little bit more offensively. I think they're playing a little bit more cohesive. I don't know if they're not going to reach 3 seed, but I'm confident. Tyrese looks a lot better. I mean, Tyrese casually gone kind of without notice. The only player with more 30-point, 10-assist games than Tyrese is Trae Young. So he's clearly he's playing at a very capable level. They're going to go as he goes. He's getting better. I think he's getting a little healthier. No, I'm not worried about him.
Thoughts?
I'm still a little worried about him because I just think that Halliburton is getting better. I just don't know that they can really compete on the boards and defensively, and they're going to have to do that. I mean,
they're going to have to make a move, which is what I've been saying.
Yeah, and they do have to make. I mean, I know bringing in Bryant, that's okay. I mean, I think he's been around in the NBA a long time now. The one nice thing about Thomas Bryant, one of the things I liked about him at IU is he's a team guy, and I mean, he's not a showboat. He's a good passer. He can handle the ball. He's not in the Pacer system because Miles Turner's not a true 5.
No,
and Bryant's not a true NBA 5, and so he probably fits his system better. But he's not even the answer. The Pacers have to find somebody that can dominate the boards, and I still think I'm not sure. They got to figure out too. I mean, you got Siakam, you got Halliburton, but who's the shooting guard, a guy that can make big shots. I mean,
I know
Paul George, but I mean, or even like a Ray Allen. The guy like Ray Allen or Reggie Miller. They don't have that guy. And those guys didn't play point. I mean, Mark Jackson still scored a lot of points, and I forget who was running the point for Boston at that time, but he would sometimes score. So it's you don't necessarily have to, but they have to find that threat, and it's so. That's my only concern with Pacers.
I love Ben Mathurin. I think give him more shots. I think he's great.
I think ever since he started being one of their go-to scorers is when they started losing, and I think it's not a coincidence. I'll just say that anytime you have a guy who's one of your best players and the ball sticks to his hands, it's never good, no matter how many points he scores, unless his name's Michael Jordan.
I still would like to see the Pacers do something because I still think Mathurin is better suited and better for the Pacers to come off the bench and be the guy off the bench because the ball can stick to his hands a little bit more off the bench because really you don't go super deep zone sometimes. So I think you can.
There is a value
that can
to
happen,
him.
But I think he needs to be a bench player, not a starter.
There is a value to him for sure. I'm not saying that he's not a valuable player. But the more he's the focus of your offense, I think the worse things are going to go for you. I just don't think he's that kind of player.
It's funny that they traded Buddy Hield.
That's what I was sitting there thinking I was going to say.
Buddy Hield
that's what I think they're missing Buddy Hield. I
think will never miss Buddy Hield.
Nah, but he's the sniper they need. He's the 3-point shooter they need, I think, right now.
All right, Will, how big of a deal was the Cody Bellinger trade from the Cubs to the Yankees?
It's just absolute organizational malpractice by the Cubs. It's just so stupid. It's so stupid. I will scream it from a rooftop. You do not, and I mean do not, trade to bring in an elite bat to then trade your elite bat. It's just dumb. Bellinger has been nothing but great for the Cubs. He's got defensive versatility. He can play center field. He can play first base. He's a better upgrade of whoever they're going to have. It's just the Cubs, just as a franchise, it is just. I love it because I'm a diehard Cardinals fan. If I was a Cubs fan, it would be insufferable. This is the dumbest move I've ever seen. I just don't understand it at all. Kyle Tucker can play right field. Kyle Tucker can play left field. He can be a corner outfielder. Seiya Suzuki is a terrible outfielder, defensive outfielder. He needs to be the DH. You got rid of Christopher Morel to... It's just... Their moves make no sense. They trade Morel for Isak Paredes. Paredes comes in, good offensive, good bat-to-ball third baseman. I wouldn't say he's a great defender. He's an okay defender. They don't need a great defender. And I just think that they're doing this because they think that Pete Crow Armstrong and Michael Bush are the next coming of Christ. They're not.
Well,
They're not.
But how about this for the Yankees? Cody Bellinger's wife. You know who his wife is?
Yeah, it's Giancarlo Stanton's ex.
Yes, and I mean sometimes you always want in there. I mean, it's funny, and that's what somebody said. They said you who knows what It's
just so stupid. It's so stupid. Bellinger's bat plays for New York. I mean the short porch and stuff, but like organizationally, it doesn't make. Aaron Judge is your center fielder.
Yeah,
he's your center fielder in New York. You're not moving him. I mean, I guess he can play right field, but you've got Alex Verdugo who can play left or right. I want to go back to the Cubs and follow this timeline of just senselessness. So you trade for Isaac Paredes. He comes in and he helps. Their lineup was they turned it around the second half of the year. They were a good second half of the year team. What do? We trade Isaac Paredes, the pitcher. I'm blanking on his name. Useful pitcher and a prospect to bring in Kyle Tucker, who is a generational type left-handed hitter. He has been. That's what he's been better than Juan Soto numbers wise. So it tells you what kind of money he could garner. You then trade Cody Bellinger to do what? You're the Chicago Cubs. You're a massive market. You're a Chicago market. You're a top 8 payroll or revenue team in the league. You have diehard fans. What the hell are you doing? Pete Crow Armstrong's not the answer. He's a lightning rod on the base pass, and he is a great defensive center fielder. But you're really going to sit here and tell me that you'd rather have his bat over Cody Bellinger's?
How much input did Craig Counsell have in this, do you think?
I don't know. Craig Counsell's great at getting you to the divisional round, but he ain't getting you any further than that. I mean, he always took those Brewers teams that had little to no talent and made them better than they should be. I don't know what kind of move he had for this, but it's just a dumb move. And the Cubs are only going to get worse because of it. That's the tangent.
As a diehard Reds fan, that doesn't break my heart.
The Cubs are going to be worse because of it, because Cody Bellinger, he transformed his career in Chicago. He is a more than valuable bat, and he was a fan favorite. It just makes no sense.
If my nephew goes on and plays for the Cubs, I will still hate the Cubs. That's how I feel about the Cubs. I know Will's on the same page as I am.
Yeah,
I don't like the Cubs either.
All right, good. So we all agree on that. We don't agree on much, but we agree on Cubs.
Hating the Cubs.
That's right.
Well, you two are Reds fans. I'm a Cardinals fan. So
okay.
I was going to, we agree for different reasons, but we all agree.
Yeah. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, well... I don't think the Cubs and Cardinals are friends by any
No. Reds and Cardinals.
Yes.
I usually root for the Cardinals over the Cubs unless it would be that if the Cardinals win, it hurts the Reds in the division. But otherwise, if it's just straight up, I always root for the Cardinals over the Cubs.
Yeah, and when I was growing up, the Cardinals and Reds weren't in the same division, and so I kind of like the Cardinals.
I'm just going to say this: that division is going to be atrocious again. Nobody in that division is good. I'm just going to say that.
We'll see. I think I have a feeling the Reds may be very good.
Just wait.
No, I think Terry Francona is.
They might be very good. I'm not saying they're going to be.
If they're 500, that's better than.
I think that's probably the most likely thing, but I have a feeling they might be very good.
But what Terry Francona is good at, too, is getting the best out of players, and I think he develops young players very well. I mean, I really do, and they do, and I think that's why it shocked me when the Reds
got a minute and a half. Will, last question. This is a primer for coming out. We're about to do this a little later to this week. Notre Dame, Indiana we're going to talk about Notre Dame, Indiana for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I'll let you guys go on as long as you want. But last question: who wins the national championship? 50 seconds.
If I'm picking right now, off the top of my head, I'm going to say Georgia. Well, you know what? Actually, no, I'm going to take that back because of the Carson Beck injury. I'm going to go and take that back. I'm going to say Oregon.
Michelle, 30 seconds.
I think I say Oregon. I personally want it to be the winner of Friday night's IU at Notre Dame game. And I will say this. I think IU can beat Notre Dame, but I think if Notre Dame wins, don't count them out of being national champions.
If IU wins the game, IU has zero chance of beating Georgia. If Notre Dame wins that game, Notre Dame can beat Georgia.
You are so wrong. Georgia's defense
All right,
is not
so
very
that's
good.
it for this podcast.
Oregon has a tough road, though. Oregon has a tough road. I would like to say that. No, hold on.
podcast.
I would like to say that Oregon got absolutely hosed.
Okay.
And having to play the winner of Tennessee and Ohio State.
And
really, in all honesty, you could justify being the 2 seed.
And my prediction is Penn State.
I will be at the Rose Bowl for that game.
Cool.
Excited.
Thanks to Will and Michelle for being willing to spend their time on the Central Indiana Sports Report and for providing very entertaining segments for the Central Indiana Sports Report. And thank you for listening. Please go like, subscribe, or follow if you like what you hear so you don't miss a single segment. A reminder, we're now on YouTube. Go check us out. Just do a search for Central Indiana Sports Report. And please tell a friend. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.